us this day. We pray now, Father, as we prepare to break open the word, that your spirit might once again be in this place, that he might take control of everything said, thought, and done, that if there's any glory given, that it will go to your son, because he's the only one worthy. Be with us this day. Let us leave this place saying it was good to have been in the house of the Lord. This is my prayer in Jesus' holy name. Amen. Today I'm going to spend a few moments, just a few moments, speaking from the subject, give me that mountain, asking God for big things. Now I promised Leon that I was going to be short, and I'm going to keep that promise. But it's not going to be a sermonette. Elder E. Cleveland used to say sermonettes are for Christianettes. But by 12:30, we should be doing benediction and walking out. All right, let me start. It's good to be here again in the house of the Lord, talking to God's people. I'm amazed that we have such a big God who takes notice of little people like us. You know, when you think of the stars, the worlds, and the people in the universe, it's amazing to think that God cares about us. He wants the best for each of us. He has an individual, specialized plan and design for each of our lives. He loves us so much that he would have sent his son to die, even if we were the only ones who needed salvation. What a mighty God we serve. Angels bow before him. Heaven and earth adore him. What a mighty God we serve. Tuck Wilder, who was the pastor of a small Baptist church in rural Mississippi during the 1950s and early 1960s, began each sermon by telling his congregation, today we're going to shoot for the stars, but if we miss them and land on the moon, it'll be all right, because we'll still be on higher ground. As Christians, there are far too many of us who are aiming too low. No matter how bad our position is, we should always aim for the stars, because if we just land on the moon, at least we'll be on higher ground. Some people are too easily satisfied. Many people have never reached their best selves because they've aimed too low. All of us can't be the best, but we can all be the best that we can be. We rarely have enough of an incentive to rise to be the best that we can be. Too often we compromise and stop at that will do. As you travel towards your goals, it's okay to take a break and rest for a while. But we must never stop progressing, trying to reach our goals. There are far too many of us who could have done great things, but we were satisfied with accomplishing a little when we could have accomplished a lot. There are people who could have been better church members, better Sabbath school teachers, better elders, better deacons, better husbands, better wives, better children, better people in general. But they walked away satisfied, saying, I did what I could do. So many people complain about what they don't have, when if they were true to themselves, they'd recognize that they could have had it if they just persevered to reach their goal. Your aim often as Christians is not high enough. You limit your possibilities by your low expectations of yourself and your low expectations of God. And so I found a story in the Bible, in the book of Joshua, chapter 14, that really tells the story of what it means to keep going and not stop until a job is done. Joshua chapter 14, again read so well, verses 6 through 15. I'm going to read them again using the New International Version. It says, now the people of Judah approached Joshua at Gilgal, and Caleb, son of Jephunneh, the Kenizzite, said to him, you know what the Lord said to Moses, the man of God, at Kadesh Barnea, about you and me. I was 40 years old when Moses, the servant of the Lord, sent me from Kadesh Barnea to explore the land. And I brought him back a report according to my convictions. But my fellow Israelites, who went up with me made the hearts of the people melt in fear. I, however, followed the Lord my God wholeheartedly. So on that day, Moses swore to me, the land on which your feet have walked will be your inheritance and that of your children forever, because you have followed the Lord my God wholeheartedly. Now then, just as the Lord promised, he has kept me alive for 45 years since the time he said this to Moses, while Israel moved about in the wilderness. So here I am today, 85 years old. I am still as strong today as the day Moses sent me out. I'm just as vigorous to go out to battle now as I was then. Now give me this hill country that the Lord promised me that day. You yourself heard then that the Anakites were there and their cities were large and fortified. But the Lord helping me, I will drive them out just as he said. Then Joshua blessed Caleb, son of Jephunneh, and gave him Hebron as his inheritance. So Hebron has belonged to Caleb, son of Jephunneh, the Kenizzite, ever since, because he followed the Lord, the God of Israel, wholeheartedly. Hebron used to be called Kiriath Arba, for Arba, who was the greatest man among the Anakites. Then the land had rest from war. For those who have high aim, so often we are unwilling to work hard enough to achieve our goals. People need to study the life of Caleb to see how we should turn our eyes away from the easy life and push for the mountain. We need to lift our gaze toward the mountain range possibilities. Focus our eyes on the mountain range of accomplishment. You should set your gaze on the high places, on the high peaks, and say, Lord, give me that mountain. I know that it's going to cost me something. I know that I'm going to have to suffer and sacrifice, but Lord, please give me that mountain. If you will back up your desire with faith, courage, and determination, God will give you your mountain. The Bible doesn't give us much information about Caleb. It only tells us that he was the son of Jephunneh. We also know that he was from the tribe of Judah. We know that he was one of the 12 spies Moses sent out to spy out the promised land. Caleb had been with the Israelite army for some time. He started out as a young soldier, and when Israel started out of Egypt, he was there when the people were complaining at the Red Sea. He was there when they were doubting the ability of Moses to lead the people to the promised land. He was there when the armies of Pharaoh marched on them and chased them into the Red Sea. When the people started grumbling and wanted to turn back to the flesh pots of Egypt, he was right there. He was there when they marched through the wilderness of Sinai and the valley of Kadesh. He was there when Israel wanted to start an insurrection and put Moses to death. He saw it when God came down and used Sinai as his pulpit and electrified the mountain with his presence and fighting the people with his voice. Israel heard God's voice thunder like thunder through the mountains, and they became afraid. So afraid that they asked Moses, please don't let God talk to us no more. You talk to us. Caleb was right there. Most importantly, he was there when Moses launched the campaign to investigate the promised land. They were to learn the strongholds, the military installations, and the people that they would have to confront trying to possess this land. He was among those who were commissioned to go on this mission of espionage. Of the 12 who were sent, only 2 came back with an optimistic report. 10 of the 12 who went on this mission came back with a report which said, we can't do it. We can't do it. The cities are too strong. We can't do it. The men are too large. We can't do it. The people are too tall. We can't do it. There are giants in that land. We can't do it. The cities are too secure. We can't do it. We looked at the country. We can't do it. The spies scouted out the land from the wilderness of Zin to Rahab, near the entrance of Hamath. 40 days later, they returned to the camp. They had pomegranates, figs, and a branch of grapes that was so heavy and so large that it took 2 men to carry it on a pole. However, after seeing all that, 10 of them came back and reported, we can't take this land. They had a disheartening, defeatist attitude. In Numbers chapter 13, verses 27 to 29, look at what they say. They say, we came to the land you sent us to. It does indeed flow with milk and honey, and this is its fruit. However, the people who inhabit the country are powerful, and the cities are fortified and very large. Moreover, we saw the Anakites there. Amalekites dwell in Negab region. Hittites, Jebusites, and Amorites inhabit the hill country, and the Canaanites dwell by the sea along the Jordan. They're just too big for us. They're just too tough for us. We can't take this land. These 10 men chose to walk by sight and not by faith. They had experienced all of the miracles God had already performed to get the children of Israel to the borders of the promised land. They'd seen the Red Sea open, and they'd actually walked out on the dry land. They'd seen God feed them with the same food from heaven, manna. They were there when God put a cloud over them to protect them from the sun during the day and a bright light in the sky at night to protect them from the desert cold. They knew that God had provided them food and water in the desert. They knew that all God's promises had already come true. They knew that the snakes, the scorpions, and the other animals didn't bother them. They had seen how God had fulfilled all of his promises. They knew his word was true. Yet even after all of these experiences, they doubted that God could do what he promised to do. When you doubt God, the natural response is fear. If God can't solve your problems, that means all you have left is you to solve your problem. You know what you can do, and you know what you can't do. And so when you have a problem that's too big for you and you don't believe God's going to solve it, you know it's not going to get solved. If you have a big challenge and all you have is your own resources, you know you can't accomplish your goal. If all you have is your own resources, then if you have to move a molehill, to you it looks like a mountain. If all you have is your own resources and you have a $10 bill, it looks like the national debt to you. You measure your problems by your resources. You have to learn to measure your problems based on God's resources, not your resources. It's natural to doubt yourself. It's natural to think you can't do anything, but it's unnatural to think God can't do anything. Doubt and fear work together. When you doubt God, you become afraid. Because these men distrusted God, they became afraid, and they believed that God couldn't do what God said he would do. They were so afraid that they became irrational. They gave a totally contradictory report to what they had said themselves. And it showed a lack of faith that was incredible when you think of what they'd already been through. If you look at what they said in Numbers 13, 32 through 33, their report was totally illogical. They said the country that we traversed and scouted in is one that devours its settlers. All the people that we saw in it are men of great size. We saw the Nephilim there. The Anakites are part of the Nephilim. And we looked like grasshoppers to ourselves, and so we must have looked to them. As I was reading that, I was thinking about it. This makes no sense. If the land devours its inhabitants, how could giants live there? The problem was that these 10 spies did not trust God. They didn't believe that God could do what God had promised to do. It wasn't that they didn't trust themselves. It was that they didn't trust God. And when you don't trust God, you can't do anything. But it's interesting that there were 2 of that 12, only 2, who when the others said, we can't, they said, oh, yes, we can. Y'all heard that before. They say, yes, we saw the walled cities. We saw the fortified countries. We saw the tall, giant-looking people. But this land can be taken by us because we have a God who's promised it to us. I know what God has done in the past, and I believe he will do it in the future. The 10 said, we look like grasshoppers in comparison to those tall men. So many times, church, I see people say, I look like a grasshopper in comparison to my troubles, in comparison to my trouble, in comparison to what I'm dealing with. And if you think you're a grasshopper, then you are a grasshopper. You are what you think you are, and you are what you believe you are. You must have faith. Faith first in God. Second, you have to have faith in yourself. But lastly, you have to have faith in other people. If you doubt God, then doubt yourself, and then doubt other people, you are already defeated. No matter how bad people are, you have to keep believing that there's some good people out there. I know that people can disappoint you. I know people can be really mean. I know people can be ugly. I know people can be rude. But you have to keep believing there's some good people out there. You have to keep believing in God. And most important, you have to believe in yourself. Because when you partner with God, there's nothing you can't do. Caleb was 40 years old when he was among those 12 spies who went out to investigate the land. But he was not among those 10 who believed that he was a grasshopper. Even though he faced giants, he said, I'm taller than the giants if I got God on my side. He was one of only 2 who believed that despite the obstacles, despite the many things that they might encounter, despite the giants and the walled cities, that God could do what he promised he would do. Ellen White, in the book Testimonies, Volume 5, pages 378 and 383, look what Ellen White says. It was Caleb's faith in God that gave him courage, that kept him from the fear of man, even the mighty giants, the son of Anak, and enabled him to stand boldly and unflinchingly in defense of the right. From the same exalted source, the mighty general of the armies of heaven, every true soldier of the cross of Christ must receive strength and courage to overcome obstacles when often they seem insurmountable. We want Caleb's now, who with courageous words will make a strong report in favor of immediate action. Ellen White said we need some Caleb's. Let me assure you today, if you believe that you're a grasshopper and you can't do something, then you're right. You are a grasshopper and you won't be able to do it. But if you believe you're a weakling and you have no power, then you are a weakling and you don't have power. There are many people, many things in life that should have been done by people, but they thought that the problem was too big and they forgot that God is bigger than any problem. We have to sit down sometimes and take stock of our lives and think, I can do better, I can be better, and I should be better. There are a lot of things that we do that we haven't done. If we take stock and think about it, we can say, I could have done that, or I should have done that, or I would have accomplished that if I just believed. You know the things in your life. You know what you could have done and what you should have done. You ought to raise your eyes. You ought to raise your faith. You ought to raise your thoughts above where you are and look to the mountains and say, that's where God wants me to be. Though I can't see it now, I know the Lord will make a way somehow. So some 45 years later, Joshua was presiding over a conference at Gilgal. The battles had been fought. The victories had been won. The Jebusites, the Moabites, the Amorites had all been defeated. by the mighty God of Israel. Now that the invasion had been successful and most of the territory had been secured, the various tribal leaders met at Gilgal to divide the land. I was reading this thing and I found something interesting. There were a lot of people at Gilgal who had not spent any time fighting in the war. Let that sink in. Most of the people who were there at Gilgal had never spent 1 minute in a foxhole. They hadn't engaged in any battles. They hadn't slew any enemies. They hadn't secured any land. However, on the day to give out the land, they were there. Oh, y'all too slow today. One thing I've come to realize is that the crowd will always be there when it's time to give out the gifts. But when the battle is being fought, you can't find them. The crowd is not there when the hard work is being done. The crowd is not there when the difficulties are faced. The crowd is not in the foxhole with you. It's not there when the bombs are going off, when the bullets are flying. The crowd is not there. It's just you and God. But when it's time to give out the gifts, oh, it's a crowd now. They're not there when the spade work has to be done, when the foxhole has to be dug, when the trenches have to be dug. There's no crowd there. But they're there when you start handing out the gifts. So representatives from every tribe were there at Gilgal to get their land. They were there politicking, scheming, negotiating, trying to get the best land, even if they had not spent any time fighting. They all wanted the rolling hills, the beautiful meadows, the water-fed deltas, and the gorgeous fertile plains. They were all there politicking, trying to get the best land. But it's interesting, in the middle of this, way back towards the back, was an old man, 85-year-old man, patiently standing in line, slowly coming up to the front. Even though he had put his time in fighting the enemy, even though he had dug the trenches and had been in the foxholes, even though he had borne the battle in the heat of the day, even though he cleaned the latrines and mopped the floors, he stood there patiently waiting his turn while all of those who'd not done any other fighting got theirs. As this tall, elegant, stately man stood in line, he no doubt looked back over his eventful life. This man knew the horrors of war. This man knew what it meant to be in the foxhole. He knew what it was like to carry the burden in the heat of the day. So when Caleb finally got to the front of the line and he shook hands with his friend Joshua, I can just imagine the conversation they must have had. I can just hear him saying, Joshua, I'm not here to jockey for the best land. I'm not here politicking for anyone. I'm not representing any interest group or any constituency. I'm not here trying to secure the best grasslands. I don't want the pretty soft meadowland. I'm not here begging for some rolling hills or some beautiful green valleys. I'm a soldier. I've been in the thick of battle. I've been fighting for 45 years. My whole life has been a fight. I remember crossing the Red Sea. I remember wandering through the wilderness. I remember the bread that God gave us from heaven. I remember the rough times. I remember all of that. I know that I fought well and been in the midst of the battles. You know, you and I are the last of our generation. All the rest of them have died off, as God promised. You know I deserve some nice, good place, safe, with a nice retirement, but I'm not here for that today. Caleb and Joshua had been friends all their lives. Joshua looked at his friend and realized that he was 85 years old. Now again, this ain't Bible, this is me interpreting two old soldiers discussing the situation. And I can just imagine Joshua saying, look, brother, I have a nice gold watch for you. A pretty rocking chair. We just bought this from Cracker Barrel yesterday. We're going to find you a nice, safe spot in the valley near a good water stream, looking over some fertile ground where all you have to do is sit down and enjoy your retirement years. I can see you getting up in age there, man. There are wrinkles in your face. Your body is still strong and vigorous, but I know arthritis is attacking your knees. I know you're having some problems. I know you're 85 and time is going to catch up with you soon. I know that the mountains still are fenced in and they're defended by our enemies. There's still soldiers who are fighting up there. There's some giants who are still fighting up there. And I know that after 45 years of fighting, you want to relax, you want to retire, you want to enjoy your grandchildren. So we're going to give you some nice spot here in the valley, safe, away from all the fighting, where you can enjoy your last years. You've already paid your dues. You've already done what you need to do. It's time for you to retire and be safe in the valley. I can just imagine his friend telling him that. But then Caleb interrupted him and said, no, you won't do any such thing. I don't want some safe place in the valley. I don't want to be near some soft rolling stream and near some safe green meadow. I want that mountain. I want that place where they're still fighting. I want that place where there's still land that needs to be conquered. I may be old, but I'm not dead. I still want to keep fighting. I still want to make sure that all of our enemies are defeated before I retire. I know I'm going to have to climb up some tough mountains. I know I'm going to have to fight some enemies. I know it's going to be cold. I know my bones are going to crackle and ache. I know that my back is going to hurt, but I'm still ready to fight, and I want that mountain. I'm not through with my dreams. I want to finish the job that we started 45 years ago. I want to face those giants that frightened us 45 years ago and let them know I'm still here, and I'm not scared, I'm still. I know this is a nice, beautiful gold watch you have, but I'm going to continue to wear my Fitbit. I want to know that I'm still fighting. I want people to know what God can do through me. And I may be 85, but I'm not dead. I still want to keep fighting. I still want to keep conquering. I still want to keep doing what God has me doing. I want that mountain. Don't give me no place in the valley. Don't give me no soft rolling stream. I want to conquer the mountains. I want to drive out the enemies. I still want those giants to know that an 85-year-old man is coming to get them. I want that mountain. I don't mind the sacrifice. Give me the mountain. I don't mind the suffering. Give me the mountain. I don't mind the pain. Give me the mountain. Whatever the cost, give me the mountain. I don't want to rest till I'm dead. I want the mountain. I don't want to sit back and enjoy life. I want to keep fighting until the job is done. I'll rock in my chair when I get to heaven and have my porch. Until then, I want to keep conquering mountains. I want to stay on the battlefield until I'm dead. I want that mountain. After I began to study this thing, I saw what Ellen White said. We need more Calebs in the church. People who want to keep fighting. People who want to keep accomplishing goals. People who want to make sure that they don't stop until the job is done. Caleb, though he was 85, though he was old, though he had been in the battle for a long time, he said, I'm not through yet. There's still mountains that need to be conquered. There's still rivers that need to be crossed. There's still problems that need to be solved. I don't have time to relax. I've got mountains I've got to get over.